don't know if it's every time, but there's just this one part of the music where it swells, and it just tells me this is the moment. So here we are. Welcome back to the HEF podcast. It is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. The Home Education Foundation is an organization that was started by Brenda Dickinson and her husband, Craig Dickinson, who are our founders, who back just after their victory in the 1980s to fight for parents' rights to be recognized in statute and carved out, spelled out so that they could be protected, that every parent could have the right to teach their own children and do their own thing, and that a home education program is not a public school program. It is not a county public school system program. It is a program run by the parent for their own children with their own values, their own direction, their decisions about the academic rigor and character and quality of that program. And we're so thankful for Brenda and Craig and the work that they did. And then starting the Home Education Foundation in the early 90s, just after that victory, because it's such an important thing. Over the years that she has been the voice of parents in the Capitol to, well, once the right was carved out, we still didn't translate everywhere. How do they go to college from there? Can they go to high school? What were their credits look like? How does that get handled? Oh, we don't take your kind here. Oh, yes, you do, because we are going to get that put in statute too. And there she was to get books and dual enrollment and bright futures and sports, everything, you name it. She was there to help fight and speak up for parents and the importance, and those parents who had children with special needs that the school system just wasn't fitting for. She was there to help push and pioneer some of the early scholarships, the Gardner Scholarship, and the things that are now known as the FESUA. I'm not saying Brenda is the only person that we have to thank for those, but she was there at the beginning of all of those to push and prod and be a voice for those parents in the Capitol to make sure that those needs are heard about, talked about, and met. And so now that Brenda has retired, my name is Jason Crawford. I'm the host of the HEF podcast, and I am the lobbyist who carries forward the legacy and the work that was started by Brenda Dickinson. And so we say thank you to her. That's very important to me, that we handle Brenda's legacy well, that we handle the legacy of all of the parents who were those early pioneers well, that we stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us, and that we don't spit in their face, that we do well to walk forward, knowing where we came from, keeping that alive. And we say thank you this morning to those parents from that time. You lived through a lot of anxiety and fear, and now what we have is the heart song that you sang back then as you charged forward, held the line, spoke up for your children, stood together, sent messages to your legislators, let them know we're here, we matter, this is what we want as parents. And that's more important than what the system wants, that we don't exist to prop up the system exists to benefit us, and we aren't benefiting, so we'll take our children and do our own thing. We love all of you parents who stood for that. We thank you very much for your stance. And we thank parents right now in the free state of Florida for the support that they give to us, because that is how we are supported. We are supported by the parents who believe in the work that we do. You can go to flhef.org/support. You can look on our website and find any of the support options there. That is how we keep this going. If you enjoy the benefits of the work that we do, please support it. Please be with us in it. We thank our top sponsors who are with us in this. We don't have any big, huge, mega top sponsors like I would name them, but they're huge. You know who they are. We don't have any of those. But we do have a couple of heavy hitters that we think of in our homeschool community, people who value home education, or they value their freedoms, or there are bigger names in Florida, like the FPEA. We have Arete, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group. TBHC Group just finished their conference, and we're glad to talk about that today. But we're thankful for the top sponsors that we have here. If you, I did get asked this at the conference this weekend, if, yes, we do have opportunities for others to come on board as top sponsors, and I have information packets available for that. So if you'd just send me information at info@flhef.org, I can supply you with the details, and you can decide whether you want to become one. We would love to have you. All right, here we go. To today's topics, to today's conversations. Good day, Brenda. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. I drove home to Tallahassee the very same day that we did the conference. It was quite a drive. So I'm back home. Where are you?
I'm in Central Florida.
Yay.
And the drive back to Central Florida from the conference in Innisbrook was significantly shorter than the drive there. It was good weather coming back, coming down. It was horrendous. And it took me 4 hours for a 2-hour drive. So, it was tough getting there.
I feel that. We were on one stretch of road that was supposed to be like 65 miles an hour or something. We were driving 30 easily. And water puddles all over the place.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we made it. I'm glad that you were there with me. You know, a lot of people ask, is she out now? Is she just gone? Or where is she? And to those people, I know when they ask me that, they don't watch our podcast. But, I'm going to bring you around to every event that I can bring you to for as long as I can bring you to, because I believe people need to constantly be reminded. We have new faces constantly entering home education in Florida, and they don't know the history. They don't know how it started. And for as long as I can, with every breath I have, I will keep that legacy alive, because it's where we've come from. It was hard fought for. And it will be hard fought to maintain it. Make no mistakes about that. So as we move forward, I think that it behooves us to keep the legacy around as long as possible, and keep the voice of the legacy with us as long as possible, everywhere I can bring it. And so thank you for being with us on the podcast today. And thank you for being with me at TBHC conference this weekend.
I think it's like so many things. I was talking to a friend this morning, and they started out homeschooling their children. They put them in different kinds of options based on what was good for the child at the moment or that year. But, we were talking about how the young people that are so anti-American really don't understand the battles that were fought, because most of the Vietnam veterans are dying out. Almost all of the World War II veterans are gone, and the Korean War, and they've never lived in a war. And honestly, even though it's friendly and nobody's getting shot, some of the battles in the legislature were very intense to get the rights that we have. And if you don't understand the history, you take for granted that it's always been there. And 1985 seems a long time ago to many young people today. Yes, and it's, some of them that I talked to were, born in 2012 or 2005, and it's a long time ago, but it isn't in the grand history of our movement of parental rights and home education. And really, home education was the first option outside of public or private school. And there were no charter schools, and everything that was brought forth since 1985 has had probably some money attached to it. But we were the only ones that said, give us our rights, leave us alone, and let us do our own thing with our children. I think one of the things that when people don't know the history, they take it for granted. And so I think it's important. We've talked about writing a book, and I still want to do that.
We're going to do it.
Because I think it's important to know that, somebody was in the Capitol, and for 40 years it was me. Sometimes I would call people who I knew or put out an offer for people who had that particular situation we were working on to come to the Capitol to please speak at the committee meetings. But somebody had to set that up. Somebody had to meet with the committee members. It doesn't just happen. And I think people don't understand the value of having a lobbyist there because, you know, lobbyists get a bad name in Washington. Not the case in Florida. Yeah, maybe there's some that are overpaid, but we don't have the, you know, the Florida hospitals behind us where they send money to their high-paid lobbyists. We are a grassroots movement of parents, and we depend on those parents to learn who their legislators are, get to know them, present their ideas to them, and especially when there's a bill that will be affecting them in their rights in home education. So, you know, it's like you said, it's an ongoing battle, and sometimes it's not so friendly. Just since you've been there, you've encountered some not so friendly legislators. And I'm concerned because we used to have in the House, there was a good handful of leadership over there that supported home education. Many of them home educated themselves. Some of those people have moved to the Senate. So we have more friendly parental rights and home education friendly legislators in the Senate now. But we need to build our core supporters over in the House, especially with the upcoming change of leadership and elections. And that's a good time to plug your go get registered to vote time, you know, because if we don't have our people out there voting and sending to Tallahassee legislators that are friendly to parental rights and home education, we could go back to a day when it's tough to maintain our rights, especially with some of the potential Democrats that are running for governor. And you just can't take for granted, you know, every 10 years there's a change, and change in leadership, change in House members, and every 4 years you've got major changes in the Senate. Of course, the Senate is staggered, so every year there are senators that have to get elected. But then when the governor's office changes hands, you know, if we don't have a supportive governor for school choice, we're going to have some major battles to fight. So,
yeah, I think one of my biggest concerns right now is the lull that our society finds itself in, our state, the parents in our state find themselves in, even our homeschoolers, you know. I think that over time, since the beginning of public school as mandatory attendance, we've just kind of been lulled into, well, that's just the default norm. That's what everybody does. It's automatic. It's there. And rather than challenge it, so much of our state has just come to accept it. And I think that we run the same risk in the homeschool community of being lulled into norms and just expecting that they're there. Like, of course we have the right to homeschool. We're American. Why wouldn't we have the right to homeschool? Like, that's not how it works, actually. I do believe that we have those rights innately from God, but if they aren't recognized by others, they get trampled on by those who don't recognize them. And if you need an example of that, you can look to local school boards and local counties, because they often make policies that are contrary to the statutes that currently exist and have to be reminded that they've overstepped. And sometimes they're okay with that when they go, oh, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll get right on it. And sometimes they fight back. They push back. They go, no, we have every right to make our own policies and do our own thing and blah, blah, blah. And they go, actually, we're going to hold you accountable to what the state law says. And you can't infringe upon that right that the parent has because you feel you have the right to ask for more information from the parent or require more than you think is necessary. the parent is the one who gets to be the ultimate decision maker. We believe that we have that right innately, but if we don't fight for it, stand on it, articulate it, spell it out, put a period at the end of the sentence, and then stand on that period, then they erase parts of it, and that's critical. And you know what? We elect them to do that, by the way. That's also a part of the process, is that we do vote and elect them to do that very thing, erase parts of those sentences that are not serving. Right?
Well, that's an example of that this past session, when they were not meaning to do any harm to the rights that home educated students have in extracurricular activities, but they struck out a part that was extremely valuable because they were trying to make everything uniform, and we don't fall inside the box. And so that's
a very good.
It could have easily taken away the right for parents to prove their child's progress in home education if they had just stricken that little line that said, tell them what it was.
Yeah, let me give a recap of that for those who are listening but might not be familiar because you haven't watched our past episodes. Episode 146, by the way, we do a deep dive in this, but there was a part of the statute that required in the Craig Dickinson Act the school principal to work with the parent to find an agreed upon measure of evaluating the student's academic progress so that they could be determined academically eligible to participate in sports. That was stricken, which means that the kind of anchoring point that required the school to find a way to agree with the parent disappeared. So now they're not required to agree with the parent anymore. If that went through, they wouldn't be required to agree with the parent anymore. So fighting to keep that back in statute became mission critical for us, because if that went away, then the schools can go, well, if you want to play sports, you got to do what we say, and you'd have no say. So keeping that one little line, that one little linchpin piece in there was critical for us. And I think because it didn't happen, it did get cleaned up before it went. A lot of parents they get lulled into this. Well, it's always been this way. It'll always be this way. And they don't often know how close we were sometimes to things being erased. But ultimately that is, though, what we...
Let me just throw in there, if the legislature in session, nobody's safe.
Yeah, but that's what we elect them to do, is to keep us current and updated. And this is the plug right now. We're in voting season. And today is July 20th, 2026, and it is the last day to register to vote in the primaries. So if you're voting and you want to be able to determine who's going to be governor, and you see a candidate that you like and they're not going to end up making it through the primaries, then you should go register today and let your voice be heard. Because if you don't vote in the primaries, then who gets picked out of the primaries goes on to the big race to decide who's going to be governor. And that it matters. It matters a lot. So today's the last day. As long as you get it in before the deadline, they'll process it and get you in, and you'll be able to vote in the primaries. And if there's a candidate, if you're not sure if you're registered to vote in the primaries and you think it's automatic, double back, go check, go look it up. We have links to that. Our last podcast that we did, episode 148, we put links up to that. There's a blog on our website where we did some interviews with some of the gubernatorial candidates that are running. You can find that blog post. It's the most recent blog post, and it has links to all of that in there so that if you want to go vote, you can. We don't endorse a particular candidate. We're not pushing for anyone in particular. We just encourage all of our viewers and listeners to ask questions that pertain to education and parental rights, and to be as firm as possible in your stances. When it comes to voting, vote who you believe in will protect those rights, because family is the cornerstone of society, and you are the family. So make sure you vote and protect it. That's it. Brenda, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, no, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you gave me the opportunity.
Yes, go, please.
I feel like it's important for people to do their research, and all of those candidates have websites. Call up their campaign and ask them direct questions if you don't find what you're interested in. But it's really important that people send to Tallahassee candidates who value parental rights, whether it's in education or health or finances, whatever the area is. Parents and people in the state of Florida should continue to have the right to determine their own futures and what happens to them and their children. So those are really critical issues to start looking at right now, and see what these candidates, there are a lot of them in the primary.
Absolutely.
But not all of them are going to win. So, it's important that you vote for somebody that you would be happy with winning.
And let me make this case too, because I want to expand on what you just said. I love what you're introducing here, and this isn't just about who's running for governor. This is all of the legislature. Right. When you're looking at all of these candidates, this is your local school board. When you're looking at all of these positions of leadership, my heart says, and my opinion, Mr. Crawford says, look at everything through the lens of parental rights, self-governance, and autonomy, and education, because those things are the backbone of our society. And I will tell you this, that when we get there, whether they're Republican or Democrat doesn't matter as much as what their core philosophy on those things is, because they're looking at all of the policies through the lens of how they approach governance, period.
Right.
And then every decision that they make. So you'll see Republicans who are going to look at that and go, no, we got to stop parents from making dumb decisions. We can't let them make decisions like that. Excuse me? Like I've heard some of them say even things like, people shouldn't be allowed to use words to harm other people. And I'm like, that's the First Amendment. What do you mean? The First Amendment doesn't protect speech that we all love and adore. It protects the speech we don't like. That's literally the point. Oh man, and I'm scratching my head, going, okay, someone should have pumped the brakes on this a while back. Listen to your candidates through the lens of self-governance, parental rights, and education, because those three things are the absolute cornerstone of their approach to how they're going to vote on everything. Even when it's not an education issue, it's still a governance issue or a parent's issue, or who has the right and how does that form? And they're looking at everything through that lens, and it's default. They don't often stop and discuss that. It's just the default part of the lens through which they look at everything. So you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
No, we've had in the past some Democrats that have supported issues that their party doesn't support, because they are looking at it in terms of the constituents having the right to do what they want to do. And even in some of the Democratic, Democratic districts, the candidate that was elected is elected because they are a Democrat, because it is a Democratic district primarily. But that doesn't mean that those people individually can't support issues that are important to their constituents. And so, over the years, we've made some friends with Democrats who've supported us. So,
Absolutely.
It's not a Republican or Democratic issue.
Nope.
You're exactly right. It's how they view the world.
And I've had conversations even recently with some of the Democratic representatives who were very interested in the speech and debate stuff we were talking about. Very, very important to them. The ability to speak and the freedom of speech, very critically important to them. And then we've had conversations with Republicans who are very much ready to just shut down a lot of the parents' choices in the scholarship because they see no other way to control it. And we're this seems to be kind of you wouldn't expect to see it that way, or you wouldn't think that it would be that way. You oftentimes think of the Republicans as the freedom people and the Democrats as the control people. I got to tell you, it's individual. It's individual, and it comes down to their personal philosophy about governance, self-governance, parental rights, and education. And if you drill them on those things, look at them, scrutinize them, take a look at their platforms, and think of it from the lens of that, and critically make your own decisions. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but those are the key topics, because they determine the lens through which they see everything. And I'll jump off of that soapbox now, but it's really important. The conference was really good. I had some wonderful conversations. I had some people from Belgium. One lady was from Germany and now lives here. And it was eye-opening, because I like to start some of the conversations with people when they come up to the booth with, are you new to homeschooling? What brings you here? And tell me about if they're new, I say, tell me about what's driving you to homeschool. Like, what's in it for you? Like, what do you really want out of it? What are you looking for? And I want to see their vision. I want to see their core. Like, what is it that's driving them? And this one woman was from Germany, and she just says, there is no homeschooling there. It's just a default plugged in part of a system that just rolls. That's just what's expected. That's all it is. That's all there is. And she wants to be able to do it. She wasn't sure of herself or her capabilities, because it's drilled into them that, you're not an expert. You how could you possibly do these things? And it baffles me, because for all of human history, parents have raised their own kids. That's just it worked for mom and dad. It worked for grandma and grandpa. It worked for that's all of human history. Parents have raised their own kids. But now suddenly we're in such an age of enlightenment that no one can teach their kids anymore. Like, we've reached the pinnacle of intelligence, and we're launching people to the moon and satellites. We've created AI, but we can't possibly teach our own kids anything. Like, we're just incapable of that. Only qualified experts with pieces of paper stamped and approved by who knows can do that. Trust the system. You're not enough. Like, it's so baffling to me. And I was talking. I want you to talk. But I want to drop this and then let go of it. I was talking with Crystal today about, what we do to kids sometimes when we ask them the question, what are you going to be when you grow up? It's as if the default accepted norm is that what you were created to be is not enough. You're a girl. You were made to be a woman and a mother. It's like, yeah, but what are you really going to be? Wow. Like, wow. And we do it to boys. We do the same thing to boys. But it's that question, and we think, we're just having like conversation or whatever, but it does put the thought into their heads, like, well, why is who I am already not enough? And that's not like the Achilles heel of all society or anything. Like, it's not evil to ask that question of people. Like, no one who asks that question has like evil motives, but wow, parents, you are enough. You from birth up, you survive, you get by, you pay the bills, you feed your family, you spend time together, you build relationships and bonds, and when tough stuff happens, you get together and you work it out. Like, that's all that there is, and that's all there ever has been. Everything else is just our complicated rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. The important things you already have and can do. You are enough. You were made for this, designed for it. And to think otherwise is absurd. It's absolute absurdity. It's brainwashing. I think Sam Sorbo called it brainwashing when she was speaking. Like, it is. You've been brainwashed to think you aren't enough and that you can't do it. When in fact, it's weird to think that only other people other than you are the only ones who will ever be able to be capable of teaching your kids anything important about life. Wow. Mind blowing. All right. Sorry. That conversation with Crystal it would just hit me in such a way, like an epiphany moment where I'm just like, wow, we do it from the earliest ages to the kids. And then they grow up adults and wonder if they're enough. And I'm like, yeah, you always have been. But we questioned that from so early, you don't know any different. Anyway.
I always try to encourage parents who are thinking, I can't do home education. I go, think about what you've already taught your child by the time they reach compulsory attendance age of 6. You've taught them English language. Some parents have taught them a second language. Some you've taught them, life skills and how to function in a society. And most likely, you almost can't avoid teaching them letters and numbers and colors and directions and time. Those things you just do because it's life. What makes it so special to put them in a kindergarten class and teach them letters, numbers, and time and colors? Those things. What makes it so special? It's something a parent can do as you go through life. And that is what you continue to do because, gosh, there's nothing special about age 6 that says, oop, a parent can't teach them anymore. We have to have a specialist. And let me just tell you, things could have changed in the time that it was that I went through the education portion. I got a degree in home economics. Back then, it was a degree. And we learned all the science of baking. We learned all the how to make clothes and design clothes and all that stuff. And then I went over to education. So I was going to get an education degree. And you know what we learned? How to control a classroom. How to present a lesson plan. We didn't learn any content. And I used to say to my professors, when are we going to learn about the stuff we're going to teach the kids? And they said, oh, when you get into the teaching profession, you'll have a curriculum. And I was like, are you kidding me? We're not going to learn any depth of anything while we're in college. We're actually going to learn what we need to teach when we get out into the field. So what's different? What is different about teaching your child at home? I didn't use a curriculum because I could never find a place that my children fit in the curriculum. And we were poor. I was not willing to spend $80 on a book that my children already knew 3/4 of the material. So you have to realize that the way curriculum is set up, they review what you learned last year in the first third. The middle, they present some new information. And the last third, they review what you learned in the middle third. So why spend the money on a book that you're going to only use a third of it? Just find some other materials that teach it. And today we've got all kinds of resources to find that material. And what parent out there doesn't know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide? And that pretty much takes you through 4th or 5th grade. And every child at those levels are not really at those levels. That's the middle. So they don't teach to the top ones that are beyond that information and learning. And the lower learners or the slower learners in terms of development and understanding usually drag behind. And those are the ones that don't do too well because somebody taught to the middle. So to me, it makes zero sense for parents to think, I can't do it. You've already done it. You've done a great job. Just keep on doing what you've already been doing and what the child will ask you for, providing some resources.
Yes. On the way home from the conference, Crystal was sharing some of her conversations with me. Because for people who don't know, I was MC at the conference. So I introduced the keynote speakers, then we had the legislative update. So I was running around while Crystal got to work the booth, and it just so happened that the timing for when the foot traffic and people were there, I wasn't there for a lot of the booth stuff. And she had these conversations. Some of these conversations were just heartbreaking. One of the moms, I believe, was saying that she was trying to figure out what to do with her kid because he wasn't going to be allowed back into K3. I didn't know what K3 was. It's pre-K. They're 3 years old and they're trying to go ahead and do school, and so the kid wasn't going to be allowed back in pre-K K3 because he couldn't sit still and do the worksheets, and he was a behavior problem, and it just wasn't going to work out. So he wasn't going to be asked back. He wasn't going to be allowed back. And I thought, you want a 3-year-old boy to sit down and do worksheets like he's a professional man in a cubicle coding away on what are you thinking? Like, how is that match the psychology and the development of a child? That's not even good for grown men. Let's just be real. We need to get out to the woods and chop things down or go catch fish, or, we need our time too. That's why we have things called vacations, and they're not enough of them. But I got to say that, it's not even good for grown men. But you want to start this 3-year-old into this posture of sit, wait, don't do anything till I tell you to. What in the world, man? And then we want that very same boy to grow up over the next 15 years to be an 18-year-old burgeoning into adulthood male who can be a man and figure things out on his own and chart his own course. All throughout history, we've had men like Adams and Benjamin Franklin and Jefferson and Lewis and Clark. And now we want the same spirit of productivity out of an innovation out of our young men, but we really just want them to sit still from the age of 3 on up so we can handle it. And I want my packages to arrive when I order them on time. You know what? In a week, 7 to 10 days is not enough. I need next day shipping too. Give me that. And my latte wasn't foamy enough, and my Wi-Fi is too slow, and doggone it, my 3-year-old won't sit still. That doesn't sound like a problem with the kid. I'm going to leave it at that.
Some of the most successful countries, as far as their education scores don't even start school until the kids are 8. They need time to develop. They need for their brain to develop. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be able to work together. They're two sides of the brain. They need to be able to, it's a developmental issue that you cannot force. You can frustrate a kid to no end, and he thinks he's dumb. He loses his self-esteem, and it affects his lifelong learning. But if you just gave him time, and that's what I keep telling parents that are starting, have fun with your kids. If they're with you, they are going to learn. So one of the speakers, Sue Pooch-Farron, had some really good information in her talk, and she compared our country to other countries, and I think Florida ranks 37th in the nation in education.
Somewhere
it's
in there.
Like, what? And we want to force these kids in a system that only ranks 37th. I do believe parents can do better.
Yes.
And I know parents can do better. Absolutely. So, don't let the pressure of the experts make you think you can't, because all they're experts in is class management. You don't have a class. You have one child that you adore, and that you're going to do whatever they want. And that child is going to ask for information. And you just provide them information, help them find it, help them to learn to read, to know how to find the resources they need. And I might say that Dorothy Moore was an expert in reading back in the day. And she said, children will learn to read when they're ready to read. So if you read to them enough, they'll just start to read. Now, I think phonics is important, but it's more important for spelling than it is for reading. So
yeah, but you can harness the kids' natural curiosity, and they can brute force their way into reading. When they're hungry enough for that thing that's over there, and you go, oh, well, people who read can get that, and they go, oh, I want to read. Then they will harness that natural born curiosity to figure it out, man. I tell you what, we're up against something different though, Brenda, and I it's not anything different, I guess, than what's always been, but we stopped on the way home to eat, and I was tired. So I ate my food real quick, and then I went back and got in the car and turned off the lights for a minute or two. While I was out, this young guy, I guess, I say young man, I don't know how old he was, but he had kids. He comes across the restaurant to Crystal, and he says, because we have 5 kids, and he says, how do you do it? You're so well behaved. Yours sit still. His apparently was climbing the wall, literally climbing the wall next to him while she was talking to him. And he was like, I need help. How do I do this? And she said, she talked a little bit about, screen time, and we don't, and he was like, well, we do Pokemon, but we try to limit it. He said, but the public schools just undermine it. They jam a iPad right in front of his face all the time. And so that's how they deal with it. And then we have to deal with that when he gets home. And it's just he was trapped in circumstances. And then, he made the comment that, well, I don't think we could get by on one income if my wife didn't work. And then he went to talk about how they had this commercial grade bouncy house in their garage, and they had this awesome yard to play in, and he's got all these things, but he won't play outside and all, and and they're eating at a very I don't like to stop there because it's very expensive restaurant. I prefer to just spend $20, grab a bunch of burgers, and everybody eat and go. And I'm scratching my head, and even my daughter goes, wait a minute. They don't have enough money, but they're spending all of that money on his kid had his own phone. It's like a 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 8-year-old kid, maybe. Kid had his own phone, and they have these commercial grade bouncy houses. And I'm like, are we just unwilling to make sacrifices? Is that where we're at? The Wi-Fi's so fast, and the packages arrive next day, and everything is now and needs to be now, and we just don't have the appetite to make any level of personal sacrifice anymore, to do the important things. Save your kid. You're sitting there wanting, I need help me, my kids need something different, help me save this, help me fix this, but I can't make any changes in my life.
Right. Well, I bet if they sat down and did a calculation on how many things they do for their kids, because they feel guilty. So they provide all of these things, but they're missing the parental time. I've known several personally home education families that they figured out how in one case, the wife made more money than the husband. So the husband stayed home with the kids. They had all boys. And so she made the money and he stayed home. But when you give your kids personal time, one-on-one with those kids, they don't need bouncy houses. They don't need phones. They don't need all the extra things that you're spending money on to try to make up for the lack of time you spend with them. I think people just need to reevaluate, whether they are spending their money in the best way to benefit their children. And that was half of Sue's Pooch Farron's talk, was how bad screen time is in brain development. And yet parents do that, so they're babysitting the child while they do what they want to do, even if it's cooking dinner. Bring the child along, let the child help cook dinner.
You said it. You said it right there. While they do what they want to do, it's become about what we want. what we want to do. And we have two competing wants. Everything I want, and I want my kids to do well. And then we're just like, yeah, someone else will take care of them. This is what I want. It's like, wait a minute. We've got to, if we're going to ask questions and we want real answers, we've got to sit around and listen for them. Yes, you can. Parents, you can. Is it the hardest thing you'll ever do? Yes, because you'll have to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow the path. Yes, but it's also the easiest thing to do, because
It's
all
the
the
most
things that you
rewarding.
think you, yes, all the things that you think you need to add on this frills and that and this, and you're probably wrong about. So you're overwhelming yourself. Slow down. Slow down. Sit still. Ah, man, some of the most heart-wrenching stories, some of the most emotionally impactful stories from the conference this weekend weren't on the other end of some extravagant cost experience. They were on the other end of two hearts connecting and having a moment and bonding and a breakthrough and sitting with someone and being still. The world stopped, time stopped, and we sat down and go, you know, you're important right now. You are important. This stuff's not important. You are. Your
And they
development
talk
is important.
about relationships with their children.
Yeah.
When they get through with the quote education at home, which
Mhm.
they don't offer, but the mandatory part,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of relationship do you have with your children? Well, it's based on what you spent your time
Mhm.
doing when you're growing up.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a part of me that says someone might argue with you and say, well, you're conflating two things, relationship and academics. And we're talking about the academic part. Of course, the relationship part, yeah, that's just parenting. We're talking about academics. And I go, no. It's all the relationship. And the academics, I don't want to say they don't matter, but they don't matter. And I'll tell you why. I saw an elderly woman working in a bank who was still learning new things. Okay?
we're going to do that.
Yes. All of your life is going to be learning stuff. And if you stop, well, the other things in life will pass you by and take you over, and you'll be behind. It is what it is. But the important things, Mrs. Beasley was my third grade teacher. She wasn't there when my life fell apart. When the difficult things that happened in my life happened, she wasn't there. She taught me an important lesson. I made fun of this girl at school because I thought her nose was big, and that was mean. And she told me that. She pulled me out of that classroom, and I cried that day. But I learned a valuable lesson. I'm not mean to people like that. At least I don't think I am. But she wasn't there. She wasn't there for any of the rest of it because it was a paycheck for her. And I don't want to de-glorify teachers. I think we over-glorify them. They aren't really as important as we think they are, or we prop them up to be. Who is really important is the parent, you. You are the quintessential teacher. They'll watch you like a hawk. Every time something difficult comes your way, man, they know it. They know it. They don't always say it. My kids have given me a brief glimpse into that window sometimes of like how I know they're watching me, where they'll say, "Oh, Dad, I see you deal with this," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you were even. Where were you standing? Like, I didn't know you were even in the room." They are watching and learning every habit from you in speech, in talk. They know when you're making stuff up, and they're learning to make stuff up. They know when you're being honest. They know when you'll say something and not follow through on it, and when you will, because you make it a point to be a person of your word. They know that you're smart and you know what you're talking about, or that you're the kind of person who doesn't talk when they don't know what they're talking about, but they're willing to go look it up. You can teach them all of these habits and traits. They are learning. They're learning from you, and you're confused if you think that academics and relationship are separate, because you never stop learning in life. Life has a burden of learning on it always. So the bonds that you make with them, that you're capable of building with them because you were born to. You were made to do that. That's enough.
Right.
That makes every parent enough.
Let me throw in a little bit about the conference. That's what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time. The value of going to these conferences, and especially Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference, is because you get to meet people who are in your area. You're able to build community with them. When you have hard times in home education, you have some local people. Maybe you just need to go over and cry on their shoulder, let the kids play, and you get some encouragement. But one of our speakers was, I just love to hear her speak, was Cheryl Bastion, and she speaks at the Home Education Conference in Orlando, FPEA, frequently, and she writes, but she has 8 children ranging from the age of 37 to 11. She's got a vast amount of experience, and it's such an encouraging speaker in my view. And the most important thing is she's still in great relationship with her children.
Yep.
One of the other speakers, Sue Pooch Farron, is one of the most blessed people I know. Her children all live within, they're professionals. All of them are, 2 of them are in the healthcare, a nurse, and a very educated doctor that does, I can't even tell you what he does, but it's highly technical, and he's very valued. A lawyer and an accountant. You know what? They wanted to buy houses within a mile of their parents.
Yeah.
And they're in community as a family. That's what we want to end, right?
Yeah. I was actually, Sam Sorbo was also one of the other speakers, and she mentioned that in her speech too, about how her oldest had just gotten married and moved 15 minutes away, and she was like, that's too far. But I'm sitting here, and my family and I fought like cats and dogs. So I don't know where my brother is on the map. He's off somewhere. I'm here. I haven't talked to him in years, and I watched many people's families just kind of fracture and spread out over the globe. And I'm like, those are the core people that you have to rely on as you get older and life goes through its messy mess. The kid you fought with, bruised knees over is the same one, you'll go through life with. And I look at my family and I want that different for them, which is why we're intentional about how we teach them ourselves and train them ourselves. And we don't just disperse to our different grades and different rooms and different schools by default. We stay a family. We stay together. And that's important. And that's one of the kind of things that struck me, about the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference this year, is I saw families doing that. I saw families centering on that for themselves too, and that they had that vision for their own families. And I applaud that. I love that. Do that. Let that be your guiding light. And at every turn when a kid is curious, remind yourself of your vision. Remind yourself of that when things get hard, and harness your kids' curiosity. Because this is the other thing I was going to say earlier. We're living in a different time. Sam said it well, and it kind of shocked me a little bit when she said it. She said, we live in a society that hates children. And I thought, that's a strong word, hate. I don't know. I mean, like, we're not really honest about doing it for the children, like we have all this stuff for the children, and then it's really just about us taking home a paycheck at the end of the day. But so we're maybe a little dishonest with ourselves, but do we hate children? I was like, I don't know. And the night before, Crystal had shared with me something that a viral podcaster had said, and I'm going to share it here because this is the other end of it. The podcaster says this, quote, I just think homeschooling is a bad idea from soup to nuts. I don't care if you're a nuclear physicist. I think it's just effing weird. It's weird as F. that you want your kids around you all day, every day, and all night. And for me personally, it was that I would have gotten up on my hands and knees and strapped them to my back and crawled to get them to school every day, to get them where I wasn't. Maybe we do live in a society that hates children. It's an inconvenience. Maybe we ourselves, even to some degree, look at our children as an inconvenience. But I have to sacrifice this to do that. I don't know. Do I make that choice? And everything from overtly, like this woman, everything from overtly hating her kids to just subtly making choices that, serve me, not them. We're always at war with ourselves on stuff like that. But then it comes to policy. Then it comes to legislation. Then it comes to rules. Then it comes to law. Then it becomes to rights. Well, a person like this isn't going to think a parent should have the right to teach their own kids.
Right.
So if you know someone that person supports, I would think twice about supporting that candidate. Because if they're in alignment with each other, holy cow, look out. You're about to see some legislation come through you never dreamed you would see. Maybe it wasn't a part of their platform, but they get in there and they get some kind of hair in their ear that they want to get rid of, and boy, oh boy, they're going to run that bill. This is the kind of thing that we have to watch out for in the trends of what becomes popular in the speech of people. And Sam also told another story that I thought was really impactful about a moment where she was speaking at a place, and she was speaking at like it was an in-crowd thing. It was an adversarial crowd, but as she started to speak, they were just kind of shooing her off, and there were a couple of hecklers. But the hecklers were the only ones being heard. And so the person who invited her to speak actually uninvited her off the stage to stop speaking. Please leave because you're causing a problem. And then she said afterwards, a bunch of people came up to her and said, I really wish I'd got to hear the rest of what you had to say. And her sentiment was, well, why didn't you speak up? And I have to say, there are people like this woman on her podcast, no shortage of looking at children as an inconvenience. And I am distrusting of anybody who would want to spend time with their kids. What in the world are you thinking? I would have crawled to school with them on my back just to get them where I wasn't. Are you serious? People like her are going to speak up and be heard. And we can sit behind the screen and listen and go, man, I don't agree with that. But unless we speak up and add to the dissonant voice and goes, no. Children matter. Our rights matter. Leave us alone. We matter. And you can do what you want to do. And if you want to drop your kids off at public school, that's your choice. It exists. It's there. Go for it. But we have to start learning to speak up and speak out. And speak up for our kids and their future. Speak up for the other parents who are still trying to figure out whether or not they believe in themselves enough to dare to homeschool their kids. Speak up. Speak up and unify on parental rights, parental authority, and self-governance, and education. And be that unifying voice. Doesn't matter if you take the scholarship or you go to private school or whatever it is. If you're looking to take the wheel back and to stop abdicating your children off to other entities to raise and teach for you, then we should be together in our voices. We should be standing up together to protect those rights. And we have to keep speaking up. We have to keep talking to our legislators, talking to each other, and building community. Somebody this weekend also was talking about how they wish there was a drama thing for theater and this and that. And Sam was very quick to go, listen, the homeschool way is go build it. You're free. You want it, go build it. Like, that's the homeschool way, man. And it's, yeah, get out there. And she was like, this guy over here just mentioned to me that he wants to build one. And this person, like, get together, coalesce, build community, support one another, speak up for one another, because we need each other.
I want to pitch the Discord.
Do it.
Because how are they going to reach each other?
Yeah.
They're going to reach each other if they're in our Discord. And people can, what are you laughing about?
I love you, man. You're Brenda Dickinson. I don't want to say how old you are, but here you are, and you are the one pitching the technology and the tools that I've built to try to help our community, and I'm just here for it. I'm going to grab my popcorn. And I'm just going to munch on some popcorn. You go right ahead. You pitch it.
Because we used to have local support groups back in the early days because we needed desperately to know other homeschoolers in the area. Now that's pretty difficult to do. And what you have built gives everybody in Hillsborough County or Pinellas County a way to meet their people in that county, so that they have a voice uniformly. They can go to the school board. If somebody's watching the school board meeting and they're trying to take away rights that are in statute, go speak about it. I used to travel to school board meetings and stand up and explain the law in the meeting to them. We got plenty of people that can do that. But how do you meet them? You've got to have a vehicle to meet those people. And what you've built gives parents the ability to find teams that want to fight bad school board policy or share what they know about the political candidates, or whether they want to get involved in speech and debate, or if they want to start something and they need other people to join them. That is a wonderful way for people to be able to connect. And it's there for free.
Yep.
And if you don't use it, shame on you.
Thank you. Yes. Amen.
Well, I'm going to say something else too.
These Go ahead.
Cost money.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I value people supporting their church and missionaries, but you know what? If you don't support your right to home educate your children, that's your first mission field. And you need to put them right in there with all the other missions that you're supporting, or any other good causes or national organizations. Your rights depend on somebody being your voice at the Capitol. And Jason is your voice at the Capitol. And we should have more than enough money to pay for the Discord technology, and more than enough money to pay for lobby tools, which is a tool that helps him keep up with everything. Those things are expensive. And I functioned for lots of years without it, but I was up until midnight, 1 o'clock, to be at a committee meeting the next day because I didn't get the amendment in time to be able to do it earlier in the day. And it's really critical in this day and age, as fast as things move, that Jason has those tools, but they cost money. And so don't take for granted. We started off with this. Don't take for granted that somebody else will do it. $5, and I hope you can give more, but if you just gave $5 a month, I would $5 a month per child that you're home educating. That's more important than whatever curriculum you're buying, whatever extracurriculars they're doing, to have the right continued to give you the freedom that you have. So rethink your giving, your donations. It doesn't have to be a lot, but the last count it has was 155,000 kids who are being homeschooled. That is not those that are getting PEP. Those aren't the ones that are in private umbrella schools. Those are just registered as home education. And I ask you the question, what is the value to you to be able to continue to teach your children in the way you want it and have those rights defended? Where's just as important as homeschool legal defense, maybe more so, because we only operate in Florida protecting your rights. We don't protect the rights of people in Germany or Sweden or wherever. That's great. And I'm glad somebody's doing it. But your right in Florida is protected by the Home Education Foundation. So that's where your money should go to be able to continue your right to home education. Because when you get to heaven or wherever you end up, the question is, what did you do with your family? Those were the ones that were right there. If you didn't protect them and work with them, all those people you don't know are not as important as those that you have under your responsibility. So I'm sorry, I'm off my...
Hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Thank you, Brenda.
I just don't think people rethink that because they've taken everything so for granted, but somebody paid the price for your freedom.
Yeah. I see the cancellations come through. We were talking about raising support at TBHC, and I saw a lot of heads nodding in the crowd. Yeah, so important. And that day I saw cancellations come through, but I didn't see any, because people's card info times out and stuff, but I didn't see any support come through. So it has to be talked about. It has to be conversations. If you're listening and you're on our podcast, share this, please. Share it. You've heard from Brenda, straight from her. She's been the one doing it for 40 years. She knows what she's talking about. It is a lot of work. And I'm so thankful for you and all the years that you've put into it. And I look forward to doing the same. So, all right. Well, we're going to wrap up today. We went a little long, but you know what? It is what it is. I hope your Monday is a great day. I know that you'll make lots of memories. We're a homeschool family that doesn't do, we don't follow the school year. We do year-round schooling. So we're going to go get right on into it. And whatever you guys do it and enjoy it. Brenda, is there anything else you would like to say before we talk about our sponsors and everything else?
I don't think so. I said it all.
All right. It felt like you said it all. Thank you. You did amazing. Thank you again to all of the parents in the free state of Florida for being who you are. And those of you who support the work that we do, this is our moment to say thank you to you. We know who you are. We see you. And we're very grateful for your support. Thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group. Yes, TBHC Group is one of our top sponsors. In fact, Kim Hannon, thank you so much. Because Kim Hannon, her entire vision for TBHC Conference was to ensure that the legacy of Brenda stayed alive and that there was a place in a conference to build community that would specifically raise funds for HEF to be able to continue doing what we do. So we're very grateful. We just want to bring today's podcast to a close with that note. And without anything else, we turn your day back over to you to enjoy. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back next week. And remember, today is that day. If you haven't registered to vote in the primaries, do it.